guys, Jeremy here. I know you guys have been asking me for a long time to make videos or to post recipes on how to make some of the things that I post on Facebook. So I thought maybe I would finally try and give it a shot. So today I'm going to be making a very simple breakfast that comes from Ethiopia, also found in Eritrea. It's called Fit Fit, or Injera Fit Fit, and I believe that's in the Amharic language, and then in Tigrinya they call it Taita Fit Fit. So anyway, I'm gonna start making that for you. So, and I apologize, I don't have a tripod for my camera, at least I can't find it. So you'll be seeing my belly, but anyway, I just want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing on the cutting board. So I'm gonna get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off about probably a quarter piece of this onion, maybe less than a quarter. I'm just gonna dice that. And you don't really need to cut the pieces terribly small. So, just a small dice would work fine. I mean, you can mince it if you want. But we're actually going to just throw these in the pan, and we're going to saute the onions. Okay, that's it. So quarter onion. Alright, and next, I'm going to go ahead and chop up some of this jalapeno. Now, I have a suggestion for you. If you like spicy, don't take out the seeds. Just chop it up as is, throw the seeds, everything at all. If you don't want spicy, or less seed I should say, because I can't say it won't be spicy at all. It really depends on the jalapeno. But I'll show you how I de-seed a jalapeno. I'm Mexican, I don't wear gloves. When I handle peppers most of the time, I do make sure I wash my hands after I handle peppers. So I think the only exception is I probably will wear some type of glove if I'm handling like habaneros, but jalapenos really don't bother me so much. So this is how I de-seed a jalapeno, if you want more mild. So I actually need a spoon for this, small spoon. So I'm gonna take my jalapeno and slice it lengthwise. Here, move this out of the way. I'm gonna slice my jalapeno lengthwise. And then starting at the small end, short end of the, the narrow end of the jalapeno. Take your spoon, like that, and scrape out the seeds. Now, what I believe I read somewhere, there's actually some capsicum, I believe is what it's called. That's the spicy component of jalapenos. In the white thing that runs along the length of the jalapenos, you want to make sure you get all that out as well. So. Scrape, and that's now we'll call that a mild jalapeno. Alright, let me put these seeds. You guys, I have to tell you right now, these onions are killing me. Alright, so let me go ahead and chop up the rest of this jalapeno. And I'm just going to dice this into little small pieces as well. Okay, so I have my jalapeno. Now, what I will probably do with this, since I have half spicy, half mild, I'm gonna also dice this into small pieces. When I cook my tomato and my onion, I'm gonna throw in the mild jalapeno during the cooking process. And then for the garnish, I'm going to use the spicy jalapenos. Sorry, these onions are making me cry. It's so sweet. Okay, so I have all my onions, my jalapenos. Now the next thing that I need is my niter kibe, which is the spice butter. right here, and some of you may have seen I posted this a while back, but I made about 4 pounds of clarified spiced butter. This stuff is amazing. It has a lot of different spices in it. I don't remember the top of my head, but I'll make sure I post these at the end of the video so you know which ones to use. And maybe at some point I'll make a video on how to make this. But this stuff is amazing. It's good for just cooking like just vegetables. You don't have to make like Ethiopian per se, but you can use this for cooking vegetables. You can melt it and put it on popcorn. It's just absolutely amazing. It's like the best thing ever. So, okay, so now let's take our butter. I'm gonna pause and then we'll run over to the pan and get set up. Right back. All right, so now I'm gonna take some of my spiced butter, or Niter Kebe. It smells so good. I wish you guys could smell it right now. So I'm gonna take about a generous tablespoon to start off with. Let's go for two tablespoons. Let that melt in the pan. So I have melted about 2 tablespoons of the spiced butter in my saucepan, and now I'm going to throw in the onions that I chopped. Again, this is about 1/4 of an onion. Go ahead and give that a little stir. And then go ahead and throw in the chopped jalapeno. Stir that in. Okay. So while that's cooking, I'm going to turn this down on low because we don't want this to cook too fast. I'm actually going to go back and chop some tomatoes, and then I'll be right back to throw those in. Okay, I'm back. So my jalapenos and onions have had some time to saute, if that's what you want to use. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw in my onions that I chopped, or sorry, onions, oh my god, my tomatoes. And these are two small tomatoes from my garden. So I'm actually going to probably end up chopping up some more tomato. To serve on top along with the fresh jalapeno. Normally with this dish, you will typically would use a combination of fresh tomatoes and tomato paste, but I'm not really a big fan of using canned food when I cook, so every time I make something, I try to use as many fresh ingredients as possible and limit the canned items. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a stir, and I'm going to turn this back on medium heat. Okay, and one more thing, I'm probably going to throw in a couple cloves of garlic as well. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back, and I have my 2 cloves of garlic and my trusty garlic press from IKEA. Love this thing. I don't know if you guys have ever used a garlic press, but this is such a huge time saver, and I just love it. I think one of the things I hate about cooking is chopping things that are very small, so garlic is one of those items. Okay. So I have my garlic in there. Just give that a stir. Alright, so probably one of the other important things I'm going to throw in here is some salt. And you don't need to use a whole lot because when you make the spiced butter, there's actually a bit of salt in the butter already. So you want to probably be a little light-handed with the salt at first. Just add the smallest amount, taste it, and then adjust accordingly. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of salt. Give that a stir. Okay, and I'm going to use my tasting spoon to give this a taste and see, make sure it has enough salt. Perfect. So we're going to let this cook down just a little bit more. We really want all the tomatoes, onions, jalapenos to be soft. We're almost making kind of like a tomato sauce. Because what we're going to do next is we're going to be adding in some spice. And one of the most common spices, or spice blends I should say, because it's not really a spice itself. This is called berbere, or berbere. And this is kind of like the Ethiopian equivalent of a curry, because it's a blend of multiple spices, and it ends up having this just amazing flavor, spicy. I don't know how to describe it, but that's it's just one of my favorite seasonings. So we're gonna add some of the berbere spice, and then we're also going to be adding some injera. Now this is injera, this is leftover injera that I dried in the oven, so it's kind of crispy, so it's almost like a chip. So it crunches. So normally this is the soft sourdough, spongy crepe-like bread that's used. Basically, this is your eating utensil when you eat Ethiopian food. Okay. So anyway, this is, if you get some injera and you have a lot left over, I recommend just drying it in the oven. Like set your oven at like 225, 250, and just throw in your sheets of injera and just leave them in there until they're crispy and dry. And then I break them up and I put them in a Ziploc bag like this, and I can just store them in the freezer indefinitely. So whenever you're ready to make Injera Fit Fit, just take some out and get them ready to make some breakfast. We're going to check out our tomatoes. So this is starting to look pretty good. We're almost to the point where I think we can add our spices. So normally you can just have this dish just as is, but for today I'm going to add some additional protein. So I'm also going to be adding some cooked eggs, not mixed in, but just on the side. So I'm just going to give this another stir, and it looks like everything is pretty much soft enough and cooked down to the point where I like it. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and throw in some of my berbere. Now, word of caution, berbere can be a little spicy. It's not really spicy to me. Being Mexican, this is more what I would consider mild. So, but for those of you who typically don't eat spicy food or aren't really accustomed to spicy food, I would probably start off with just a little tiny bit first. Oops, okay, that's not really a tiny bit, but start off with a tiny bit first and adjust accordingly to your level of heat that you're looking for. It's always best to put in the minimum amount of something first, because obviously you can't take it out, so start small and then work your way up to what you can stand, or what your palate desires. That's a good thing about cooking, is that it's kind of like art and science. This is your palate. You can add whatever colors you want to it, whatever flavors you want to it. And I don't know who said this, but I heard this. I always think of this quote, and it's cooking is science for hungry people. I totally agree with that. Okay, so this is a good flavor. I'm going to add just a little bit more berbere, because again, I like more heat in mine. I'm going to take my injera, the dried injera, and I'm just going to kind of break into little pieces like that. It doesn't have to be too small. And if there's big pieces that fall in the pan, you can always just use your spoon, your cooking utensil, to break up the small pieces. That's probably enough. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a stir. Make sure everything's coated. Get all that deliciousness in every single bite of that injera. know, it's funny. I was just thinking this totally reminds me of making something similar like chilaquiles, which is what it's like a nice Mexican breakfast that involves using leftover tortillas. And actually, the process is actually very similar to what I'm doing here. So you want to make sure that all those pieces of injera are coated, because you don't want the injera to really be crispy. You want it to be chewy. Not too soggy, but more on the chewy side. Alright, we can turn the heat down just a little bit. We don't really want this to cook anymore. So now that injera has absorbed all of that flavor, all the juices from the onions, the jalapeno, the tomatoes, and the garlic. And I can't forget the spice butter and the burberry. Alright, so I'm just going to move all this stuff to the side. Again, I'm going to try and only use one pan for this. And I'm kind of embarrassed to be using these pans. These are these red copper pans that aren't really that great. So you're gonna laugh when you see these eggs, they're gonna stick. But anyway, I'll bring it back. Okay, I'm back. So I've cracked my egg into the pan, added a little bit of salt and pepper. You guys are gonna laugh. I don't usually like fried eggs, sunny side up, whatever you wanna call them. So I cracked my eggs in the pan, and I'm gonna take a chopstick, and I'm just gonna kind of lightly mix them up a little bit. There we go, that's good. So as I was saying earlier, these eggs are probably going to stick to the pan, so I'm going to have to scrape them out. So they're not going to have the best aesthetic quality to them once I plate them. But they'll still taste good either way. Alright, so I'm going to let this egg cook, and then I'm going to walk over and I'm going to chop up some cilantro and some more tomato, and then I'm going to be adding some farm cheese, or a good substitute for farm cheese. And just one word of caution is that the cheese I'm using is actually a Mexican cheese called cotija, and it's similar to texture, and I guess in texture is the main similarity, to farm cheese that is often used in some Ethiopian dishes. It does have a stronger flavor, the cotija cheese does, but I really like it, so I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. So I've chopped up some tomatoes, just one small tomato, chopped up some cilantro, and then I have my jalapeno that I chopped up earlier. And then I also have some of the cotija cheese that I was telling you about earlier. So those are going to be the garnish for the dish. So you can throw on whatever you want. It doesn't matter in which order you put everything on, but I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle on some tomatoes. And a ton of jalapenos because I love them. And they're really good for you too. They're very high in vitamin C. Cilantro, and then I'm going to finish off with my cheese, so you can make sure it's nice and crumbly. Okay, now I feel like my eggs are lacking something, so I'm just going to take a little bit of my Burberry spice and just sprinkle some on top, just for a little extra flavor. Alright, that's it.